it last night, and I was already a little tainted from all the Twitter drama surrounding it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like I remember I watched it and I was like, this isn't that bad. I guess it is technically, lesbian space ninjas made babies out of nothing. It does destroy like previous Star Wars. Like Anakin was supposed to be this like unique, special character that was immaculate conception kind of thing. And now you're telling me that we've already done it. And they don't even use the force, they're using like the thread.
The thread, yeah.
So, just canonically, let's just take all the woke stuff out of it. Just canonically, this really hurts the franchise. So you have people that maybe don't really care if there's a lot of agenda-driven story, but then you mess up the canon of the universe, and that's going to piss people off. So a lot of people really hated this episode, and it was really, I thought it was hilarious. I'm looking for reviews to see what other people are saying, and I come across that Forbes review that I sent you, and they were like, "This is the worst Star Wars ever made." I guess the headline was specifically the Acolyte episode 3 review, one of the most disappointing Star Wars episodes ever made. And this is from Forbes. Like, they're not like this is a left leaning rag. So I thought it was really interesting. This is what they said in the article. The third episode of the Disney's Acolyte is an embarrassment to the entire franchise. Though the same can be said for so much Star Wars these days, outside of Andor and the first couple seasons of The Mandalorian. Here's one exchange between two characters in this last episode. May, the Jedi are bad. Osha, the Jedi are good. You know what I thought was interesting is that, and I think Drinker said this, the entire compound was destroyed by the kid setting fire or whatever. Remember, this is the same kid who was on like a righteous mission to kill all Jedi because they killed her people, but then you find out no, she actually is the cause.
Well, so this episode, it was a flashback episode, right? And I always hate it when shows stop the progress of entire season to do like these flashback things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you notice, this was told from Osha's point of view.
Right.
And so the next episode, I believe, is going to be a flashback episode told from May's point of view. And I don't think May actually started the fire. I think they just made it look like she did, because she was blaming. Jedi. Yeah, she was blaming her sister for what was happening when they met on that catwalk type thing. But it's just, at this point, I'm just beyond caring. It's just it's so stupid. Like the twins that they got to play Osha and May, like they don't look anything like each other. And also, we're supposed to believe that these girls have had the same hairdo since they were like 8.
They're still rocking that same hairdo.
But what's even worse, Brian, is that so this small coven of lesbian witches build a huge compound into the side of a mountain made of concrete and rock, and somehow a fire spreads and burns this place uncontrollably.
Right.
I'm like, do you guys know how fire, metal, and rock work?
No,
fire can't spread on stuff like that.
Fire also can't be in space; it requires oxygen. So
yeah,
I just think they maybe just don't know how fire works.
I think that's pretty much obvious.
Yeah.
I think my favorite tweet that I've seen is that someone tweeted that this is what happens when you don't have anyone around to mansplain to you.
That's hardcore, dude.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit sorry for the guy from Squid Games, Lee Jung Jae. I'm saying the name wrong, I'm sure. Because I think he's a fine actor, and imagine coming out of South Korea, you have this hit show, and you get this chance to be in Star Wars. He's probably a Star Wars fan. He probably grew up watching Star Wars, and he has a chance to be a Jedi in Star Wars. What an amazing opportunity! And this is the show that you are injected into. I would feel so disappointed if I was him. I sort of feel bad for him because he's not bad. He's not a bad actor at all.
No, he's very likable.
Yeah, he's very likable. he's just in the wrong show. And how many people from South Korea or whatever are going to get that kind of opportunity? So that was a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, like he had to learn English to be in this show, and you can tell that he's basically like kind of phonetically reciting his lines, like he doesn't actually understand the language.
Right.
But at the same time, he's literally the best actor in this show.
Right.
So,
right.
What does that tell you?
That's true. Yeah. All right. So the biggest thing about this, and I hate to go back to this, but the biggest thing about it, in my opinion, is the fact that they're like, take the bad acting out of it, take the lack of understanding of fire, the changing of force versus threat, all that. Just the conception of these twins really does hurt the entire canon of Star Wars. Like the whole point, like what started the Star Wars story was Anakin Skywalker. And while I don't like the prequels, they do exist, and that setup is what set it up. And then the Force having to correct for the light side, dark side, and all that. But how does this work now, canonically, where there were two like Force or thread using characters produced out of this immaculate conception?
Well, you want to know my theory?
Yes, I do.
You're not going to like it.
Yeah, that's. I'm assuming I'm not. Yeah.
All right. So you know how in Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine is at that weird opera with Anakin,
Right.
and he tells him the story of Darth Plagueis,
Mm-hmm.
the Jedi that or the Sith that conquered death, or whatever the case may be. So my theory is that one of the twins turns to the dark side after killing the other one.
Oh no.
And becomes Darth Plagueis, because they never said that it was a dude. And because the twin was birthed from the Force, they were predisposed to be able to, impregnate via the Force.
Mm.
And it was one of these twins that created Anakin. Okay.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And in addition to that, okay, so we know that they're doing a Rey Skywalker movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch the Rise of Skywalker, after Rey, quote unquote, dies and Kylo Ren brings her back to life, if you notice how he does it, he puts his hand over her belly and uses the Force to inject life back into her.
Right.
And he got her pregnant with a Force baby when he did that.
Oh no.
And so when we pick up with the Rey movie, she's going to have a child between her and Ben Solo that unites the Skywalker, Palpatine, and Solo bloodlines. And it's all this stuff with the Acolyte is just set up so that they can justify doing that.
That's actually a really good theory that I do absolutely despise. I do not like that at all. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Force is female. Someone just said in the chat, the Force is female. So nothing but
the Force is lesbian, just so we're clear.
Well, yeah, specifically lesbian female, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if the Force was just a trans man or a trans woman.
You think they're gonna ever do that, like the embodiment of the Force thing, the way they've done in so many other stories, where there's like an actual like Force ghost, and that's like the embodiment of the Force in some way or something? Because I remember reading one of the extended universe books where they sort of had like the Force talking to someone, and I've always wondered what they would do with that in like Star Wars proper.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think they'd probably err on the side of holocrons before they went that far. But they are making the Force like a sentient thing,
mm-hmm.
Whereas like the original trilogy, like it was this thing that created life. But now, like with J.J. Abrams and his take on the Force, it's like, oh, the Force always seeks balance. Like it can never be too light or too dark. It's this sentient thing that creates dyads and speaks to people and blah blah blah. It's just like, come on, dude.
The Force was supposed to be a force of nature. That's like the point of it, right?
Yeah.
And now it's they're erring more on like to that religious kind of supernatural area. Yeah, I'm not a fan, obviously. The worst part about this, though, was that it was boring. In my opinion, the worst part about this is that it's boring. I know flashbacks are usually boring, but like especially boring. I found myself fast forwarding entire sections of this and missing none of the story.
Well, it also didn't help that the two girls who played the twins were some of the worst actors I think I've ever seen on a Star Wars show. And that's saying a lot because Star Wars has a long history of bad child actors being involved in it. But these two were not only bad, they were annoying.
Why didn't they just use the same actor?
Because she's too old.
No. As in, like, to play the children. Why wasn't it just two of the same actors? Two of the same actor.
So there's one of two explanations to that. The first is that it's cheaper to just use two girls that look alike. But I think the second is that there was some nepotism going on there, and the two girls are actually sisters, and they were cast because Leslie Headland owed their mom a favor or something like that.
All right, I mean that's the only explanation I have, because in the future they're played by the same actor.
Yep.
So, anyways, okay. Yeah, so like I said, I want to transition from this, but we got some super chats into The Boys. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on The Boys because I don't want to do spoilers. But I do want to talk about it because it just premiered. First off, we got Dame Frodo Lives. She said, sup, 499. Thank you, Frodo. I appreciate that. And Christopher May is a question for Matt here. Matt, do you consider Acolyte to be worse than Star Trek Picard Season 3?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, I had my problems with Picard Season 3, but overall, it was a fun show.
Yeah. Rec Thoughts did say the two kids are actually twins, if you understand. Interesting. Then they're fraternal, which completely voids the point of them being twins on screen.
Well, also keep in mind these parallels, right? Where like Luke and Leia were technically twins, right? And so this idea that twins and are part and parcel with Force dyads, right? Which were introduced in the sequels. So this is the start of the Skywalker lineage in the sense that, the Force always births a light and dark or some type of dyad type thing. It's annoying because basically this is basically fan fiction from people who aren't really fans of Star Wars.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty evident that I think that the majority of the people that wrote this, I think the majority of the people that are acting in it are just like tangential fans of the series. They don't really understand, what it means to a lot of people and how far or how deep the lore goes. And, you have the flip side of that. You have fans who are looking for Star Wars that have read books and they collect all the comics and they have.
Hold on a second there, Brian. We all know that there's no source material for Star Wars.
I know. Well, there's no source material to work with. That was the stupidest line. The worst thing you can tell Star Wars fans. I mean, dude, I have like 30 books in my cabinet still. There's so much source material to work with. What a silly, stupid thing to say. Oh my God. And even as far as official source material, there's a ton of official source material work. There are prop books that have lore inside, like just showing the props from the movies that they also wrote lore for. And those are official books from Star Wars. That's crazy.
At the very least, they should have the Star Wars RPG manual somewhere in Lucasfilm that they could go off of just to keep, the continuity straight. But They don't even have that.
Yeah, at the very least, play The Force Unleashed. Just play that game once through, so you have an idea of what people are looking for. Oh my God. Yeah, I did a couple years ago. I read that they were going to do a Force Unleashed series with I'm forgetting the guy's name, Worthington, whatever his name is, the guy who did the voice, and he was also an actor. And I remember being stoked, like, oh yeah, that'd be sick, a Force Unleashed TV series. And then now 2 years later, I'm like, that would be horrible. Like, I don't want you to taint my memory of this game. I just don't want you to do it.
But I mean, they
Sam
have used
Worthington, I think his name is.
They have used elements of Sam Witwer.
Yeah, something like that, right?
But like they've used elements like when Darth Vader grabs the spaceship from taking off in Obi-Wan.
Yeah, they did. That was straight out of Force Unleashed. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing about the Force Unleashed is that, like, it's an alternate history. Like, it's not meant to be canon. It's just meant to be like fun and cool. But when they start taking those things and adding them into canon, it becomes problematic, because if Vader could stop a spaceship that's taking off on a planet that has gravity and stuff like that, why couldn't he grab, Princess Leia's Corvette when it escaped from the Battle of whatever that planet was?
Right. Yeah. It adds a lot of confusing layers. But I would argue that, remember the suicide run, the hyperspace suicide run by the blue-haired, feminist. That is the most canon-breaking thing in any official Star Wars ever.
Oh, you mean the Holdo maneuver?
Yeah, whatever it's called, where like she hyperspaced into the fleet. Like if you can do that, then the Death Star shouldn't have been an issue.
But Brian, that was 1 in a million.
So stupid. Well, you know what? How many ships and droids do we have? Why don't we just send a bunch of them into the hyperspace into the Death Star?
Yeah, I mean, all you really need to do to destroy a planet is strap a hyperdrive to an asteroid and then just aim it. Right. You don't need to spend all this money on a freaking space station the size of a moon with a super laser.
Right. Yeah, hate it. It's really bad. Okay, so the biggest problem with this, and this is the transition here, is, and like I said, the biggest problem is boring. If it was at least entertaining, then I would be getting entertainment value out of hating it, right? And honestly, like Strange New Worlds Season 2 was sort of like that. Like I didn't enjoy that series, but there was enough of it that was entertaining where I enjoyed hate watching it. I don't even enjoy hate watching Star Wars, right? So if you're entertaining and you still have that crazy agenda and you don't know what your topic, the topic you're writing about is, at least we can enjoy hate watching it. So I'm watching The Boys, and this season, I'm noticing more and more where they're really leaning hard against the right. They're making characters gay that I think that they sort of touched on before, but they never actually showed it. They're leaning into like the trial. Like they actually had an ad where it was like Homelander. They're comparing Homelander to Trump. Homelander is facing his biggest battle yet, the corrupt legal system, and yet they have an ad: donate today. It's very anti. I know what you're saying. Like you said that they attack both sides, but this season so far, the 3 episodes I've seen has been very heavily leaning toward the evil right-wing fascist, and maybe it changes as it goes. But what I noticed was I was noticing all this, and I'm like, I don't care. Like I don't really. It's not bothering me because this is entertaining. It's entertaining. I am actually laughing at some of the crazy caricatures of right-wing, media. Like there's a Tucker Carlson type character who's getting his balls crushed by the CEO of Vought. They have all these very similar comparisons to right-wing media and politicians. And it should be like, well, wait a minute, like, you got to show the left too, and they're not really doing it. But because it's so entertaining and it's funny, I'm okay with it. And I think that the way not that Star Wars makes me mad anymore. To be clear, Star Wars made me mad in episode 8. Watching episode 8, I was mad. Episode 9, I was sad. The TV show started to come out, and I became apathetic. And now I don't really care. But often when you see like a show that is beloved by many start to lean into, left-wing propaganda, it does start annoys me, because I feel like just like South Park, everyone needs to be equally offended. But this show is done so well, the first 3 episodes so far, that I trust that whatever the parody they're going for, whatever story they're leaning towards, is going to entertain me. And if you can entertain me, I can forgive your biases. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the lampooning of the right, I mean, that comes straight from the source material because the president in the comic books was kind of like a stand-in for Bush, and a lot of it's kind of interesting because the Vought News Network, which is basically just like a thinly veiled Fox News, has been in since season
Right.
one.
Right.
But like there are like a lot of things, like they've lampooned Scientology, they've lampooned like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with like the evil,
They did, yeah.
the evil congresswoman who can blow up people's heads. They've lampooned LGBTQ pride stuff with Brave Maeve and like how it's all like just kind of fake and forced for
That's
like
true.
commercial purposes.
Right.
But the biggest thing is like they port like everyone who comes off publicly as a hero in this show is secretly a villain, or not so
Yes.
secretly a villain, right?
Right.
And the people who are often portrayed as the villains are actually the ones who are heroic, but they do awful stuff in order to achieve their goals. So in a weird way, there's just like lesser degrees of evil that are fighting against each other in this, and it's really just kind of a commentary on how shitty humanity and our current culture is.
Maybe that's why I like it so much, because I see every one of those comparisons. Like in one episode, they're looking at like the names of ballrooms at a hotel, and it was like Maeve's gender neutral ballroom or something like that. And I was like, that's such a 2024 thing. It's perfect, and it's a quick little frame. It's not something that they even linger on, but it's funny.
Yeah, and like if you look at like Billy Butcher and Homelander, like they're equally evil people, right? They just have different motivations. And they're both in a weird way like extremely sympathetic as well, because they both have such tragic backstories. But it's kind of like a Lex Luthor and evil Superman situation with those two. But like overall, it's the moral compass of Jack Quaid's character. I forget his name. Like the main guy.
Yeah, the main guy, the guy who plays.
Is it Huey?
Huey, that's
is that his name? Yeah, like if you look at Huey, like Huey's always the most useless character around, and
Right.
he's always the one who's trying to take the moral high ground here, but like it's a world that just ignores him, and he's basically powerless in this world. And in a weird way, he's also kind of a joke, and so I think Eric Kripke, who's the head writer and showrunner of this show, he's very obviously like a self-avowed leftist. Like he doesn't like Trump. He doesn't.
He
like
also
the right
made Supernatural.
Yeah. So I mean, he's got a long history of production, but I feel like if you've watched the previous 3 episodes of The Boys, along with was it Generation V?
Yeah.
Which was really good as well,
Really
but that
good,
was also there's always a type of like irony to these shows. Like no matter how hard they go after one side or the other, it's almost satirical, right? It kind of reminds me of how like John Carpenter used to tackle like stuff like that, right? Like if you watch They Live, like that's a very anti-capitalist movie, but at the same time it's quite brilliant, right? With the satire about consumerism and Reaganism and stuff like that. So The Boys doesn't bother me because like I feel like everything is fair game for them to lampoon and satirize and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
And plus, like if you're a fan of Garth Ennis and the original source material, the show is very, very much aligned with his nihilistic, like kind of like outlook on humanity and life in general. Like I was a fan of Garth Ennis back when he was doing The Punisher, because his take on The Punisher was just like so like dark and hilarious. And that translates really well to The Boys. In fact, I think the show has done a better job of doing The Boys than the comic book did.
I think so too. It's so brutal. Like everything is so brutal and gory and shocking where you as the fan, like, you don't know how Homelander is going to react. And you're like, like, if he always just murdered someone, then you would assume that's going to happen. But he doesn't. Sometimes he's smart about it. Sometimes he's diabolical, and sometimes he's apathetic. And you don't really know what's going to happen next. And so some of the stuff that does happen, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a shot where he accidentally kills someone, and it just causes a chaos engine of death after death after death, and it's really quite something to see. And so, like, keeping the fans on their toes like that is, I think it's great. You know there's gonna be just death and destruction, but you don't know how it's gonna happen or who it's gonna come from. And some of the stuff is just it's so debauched that it's, I can't say anything, but it's entertaining. It's just so ridiculously entertaining. You think they're gonna they're gonna go this way, but then they go so much farther with it, where it's like, what the this is insane. The Deep in a committed relationship with an octopus is just ridiculous.
It's like something out of Rebel Moon.
I guess you're right. From Michael Nemo for $5, thank you, Mike. He says, yeah, don't forget Botland's inclusive kingdom with BLM, BLTs, and woke walk restaurants. That was great. I loved Botland. Botland was fantastic.
And who can forget Girls Get It Done?
Right? Girls Get It Done. And Homelander he makes fun of them in this in one of the episodes this season. Not like actively, but like he does say that comment, like, oh, girls get it done. And you could tell to him it's just such a pathetic statement, but he's saying it because he has to say it, you know. Rick Thoughts for $5. I always thought the saying "they ruined my childhood" was dumb until now. Now I can't enjoy the old shows knowing where they end up. Yeah, that's the problem with prequels, man. Like, I'm going to say it again. I hate prequels. If you're going to give me a sequel to something, fine. I can be like, you know what? I don't enjoy that. I'm just going to cut off my my timeline here. But then you have to go back and actively ruin what I already loved. Canonically, I can't stand prequels for that reason. There's a time and a place for a prequel, but it seems like so much active franchises are leaning heavily on visiting times previous to the timeline. They're creating prequels instead of going forward. And I don't know why. Shane says it's because they don't have the ability, to go forward. They don't have the talent. I think it's because they're cowards and they don't want to. They'd rather play in the past where they know where they're going. It's easy to write a story when there's already an ending. I don't really have an answer, but I hate it. I hate prequels. Hate them. I actively hate them.
Yet another thing we can thank George Lucas for.
Thank you, George. Oh, and I know that there's fans of the Star Wars prequels. I was never a fan. And
yeah, they're terrible movies.
They're terrible. And you know what? The most frustrating thing is I think I was like 18 or something. I don't remember what age it was, but I was a very young adult. And I remember for Christmas, it was right after the prequels came out. And for Chris, everyone's like, Brian's a Star Wars fan, so we're going to get him to Star Wars. Everyone's like, the prequels just came out. There's Star Wars merch everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And every gift I got that year from every single person was something related to the Star Wars. I had 2 separate Amidala dolls, like I'm a female child. I got weird lightsaber mugs and just insane stuff that I still have in my garage somewhere. But when the prequels came out, I so actively hated them that, and for years all I ever got was Star Wars stuff. I had to finally tell people, like, look, I don't like Star Wars. And it's an active lie because I love the original movies. Love them, right? But I had to just it's impossible to make them understand that I don't like this Star Wars. I do like this Star Wars. So I just had to say I actively hate Star Wars. I like Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie. and I hate Star Wars and everything that it stands for. And I had to say that so they would stop buying me Star Wars stuff. Like I was getting these little comic books and Star Wars lunch boxes and stuff I just have no need for whatsoever. I'm glad that they're trying to buy me something that they think I like, but like it became excessive, bro. Like I even got a box one year. My stepmom gave me like one of those subscription boxes, and it was like a Star Wars subscription box. And I couldn't change it. So every couple months I was getting a box of crappy Star Wars stuff, dude. Hated it. Yeah, what Rec Thought says, yeah, I got tons of Star Wars gift when the new Disney sequels went through the exact same thing. I got so much useless collector's junk. Yeah, same. Michael Nemo for $2, he says, they do prequels because they cannot create new ideas. Yeah, that's what Shane said. And I think it's a matter of being too afraid to create new ideas.
I think you're both right.
All right, well, let's talk about something outside of Star Wars and the boys. Did you know that your likes are now hidden on Twitter?
I did know this. We've been told this for months now that this was coming.
Yeah, so apparently there was an option at some point to hide your likes on Twitter, but I guess it wasn't. It was optional, and they just made it so that you can see. And this I need to be real clear here. A lot of people are making the mistake, and they're not understanding how this works. You can see who likes your stuff, because people are making the argument. Well, how do I know if there's potential collaborations that like my material? I'm like, well, that's a retarded thing to say, because you can still see who likes your post. You just can't see who liked someone else's post. You can only see the general amount of likes. And the left is melting down over this right now, because they're like, and some of the things that they're saying is they're trying to justify why it's important to see who liked something. And
it's also that you can bully them.
Yeah, that's
which is the reason why they made this change.
Right. The real reason, and this is important. The real reason, it has nothing to do, and I'm not gonna show this guy's name, so I'm just gonna read it because he's a friend of mine, but he's on the left. He says, Elon Musk hiding who likes posts, but it's not working the way he intends. He wants people to hide their likes so they can like racist, sexist, and transphobic pornography, etc. But it's actually hiding all likes. And he tries to explain why it's important to see it, and he goes through this whole setup where you can't do. How can you do business and grow your following without having to see people's likes? How can you know what content to make if you don't know what people are liking? And my answer is the same way you were able to do those things before, because knowing what someone likes has nothing to do with you as a creator. Nothing. It's the only reason is that you can bully people, probably specifically people that have large followings, who like something that you think is racist, homophobic, transphobic, etc., etc.
But also, like, the people who wrote the post that are getting the likes, you can still see who's liking your stuff. Like it doesn't hide that from you. It just makes it so that, before it was very public, like who liked a post and anyone could see who liked it. Now it's basically anonymous, and Twitter's not the first one to do this. Like, I believe Instagram did it first, TikTok,
right?
YouTube famously got rid of the unlikes, so like this is basically their justification for this, is that we want people to not be afraid to like stuff. And so we're just hiding, like, the actual names of the people who like these posts, but the people who post the post in the first place can still see those names.
Right.
So
you can still see. So if you want to collaborate with someone or whatever, you can still see if they liked your post. I can see Anthony, Mark, you're on, Matt. I can see in my feed, I can see who liked it. I can click on my post and I can see all the people that liked my post. What I can't see is what my friends or other people online, what they like specifically. So if I go
Yeah,
to
but
Mark Hamill's post, and before you can click on it and see the likes and see all the people who liked his post, now you can't see that.
yeah, I mean, like you can still see the ratio. You can still see like all these people who are complaining about this. They're the same ones who complained when Elon bought Twitter. They're the same ones when they complain when they're the same ones who complained when he fired all those people from Twitter.
Right.
They're the same ones that said like this app isn't going to last a year. They're the same ones who got upset that he democratized blue check marks. You know, like these are all the same people who keep saying that they hate Twitter and they want to leave, but like they never do. You know,
right? They never do. Yeah. Mark Hamill was one of those people. He's like, yeah, he threatened to leave multiple times and never did. He got mad when he got the automatic blue check mark. Remember that? Mm-hmm. He was like, I promise I did not buy this check mark. I did not spend money on this.
Yeah. But you know, Elon's thinking behind this, and there's actually a lot of data to back it up, is that by making likes anonymous, right, by hiding likes, it actually encourages more of that behavior. And so we're actually going to get more people liking our stuff because they don't have to worry about being judged by it, which I think is an overall benefit to the platform, because then you get more truthful interactions between people.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. And yeah, he did post that likes are way up now. I did find it funny that this just coincidentally happened right after he had liked like this porn, like Elon Musk had liked like this porn's website, and he got like he got flamed for it in the on Twitter, and like a couple days later we all lost access to to the likes. Look, what people are saying that those things are connected. I don't think they are, because months ago he said this was happening. So it's just a coincidence that he happened to like this thing that said "stroke your little pee-pee pervert."
Yeah, but you know, like they recently came out and said that adult content is allowed on the platform, and that goes hand in hand with Elon's like free speech philosophy, mm-hmm. right? Because it's like, you know, like it's better to allow the stuff on the platform and then regulate it than it is to try to either ignore it, which was Twitter's previous philosophy on adult content, or straight up ban it and send it to a place that can't be regulated or monitored.
Right.
And it, you know, like I know that there's a lot of people out there who are just like, oh, like it's terrible that he's allowing this stuff, but you know, sexuality is a form of free speech, and Elon has done a lot to crack down on, you know, dangerous stuff like child pornography, trafficking, you know, like all that stuff that was happening unfettered on the app under the previous regime. And he came in, he basically cracked down on that stuff. He's cracking down on bots, but he's allowing all forms of expression, even the ones that are controversial and that a lot of people don't like. And that's just kind of, that goes hand in hand with being a free speech platform. It's just, you know, at least he's putting protections in place for people. Yeah. You know, I see a lot of people like the Quartering, for instance, like he's always complaining about how much pornography is on his feed. And I'm like, I don't get any pornography on my feed, but even if I did, you just tap that little like 3-dot button in the corner and say like, I don't like this post, and they will stop showing you posts like that.
Yeah. I'm no longer getting porn on my post. Like, and I did this, like, I was getting porn. I was getting like pussy and bio and all that stuff. And I would just block those people. After a couple days of pruning my feed, I no longer see it.
Yeah, like if you tell the Twitter timeline what posts you don't like and that you want to see less of those types of posts, they stop showing those things to you. Like you can totally customize your feed. And it's these people who basically just don't know how to Twitter, you know, right, who get upset about this stuff, where it's like, don't show that stuff on my feed. It's like, well, you have the tools which you need to determine what you see. So, you know, just take ownership of it.
Yeah, but a lot of the stupidity is also showing with this thing. Like the hashtag bring back likes. People saying something like, here's one. Worst thing about losing likes is I used to find new and interesting people to follow. I would check my notifications and follow people that liked me. And you're like, you can still do that.
You still do that, yeah. You know, the biggest thing
has 100 reposts and 500 plus likes, as in people that legitimately don't know that that's happening still.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be by default when you liked something, it would show up in your followers' feeds that you liked it,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was kind of like it was almost like a soft like retweet type thing.
Right.
And I would get so many of those, I had to turn it off, where because it's enabled by default, but it's like I don't want to see what people are liking that I follow, and that cleaned up my feed quite a bit. But I think a lot of people didn't know that you could turn that off, and it was also problematic because I know that there was one instance where I was like debating someone over my comments about birds of prey like years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like certain responses that other people were making to these people, and then they would attack me for liking these responses that they were getting from other people because they were like, oh, you're supporting what they're saying. I'm like, so
Yeah, and
who cares? Yeah. But the way that Twitter used to share likes and make likes public and stuff like that, it was just very open to abuse. I think that by privatizing the likes, they're encouraging people to interact with people's posts more, and it's overall like a benefit to people. Like everyone said, like, oh, if you don't pay $8 a month, you can't use Twitter because it's useless. But it's like you can still use it for free. Like you just have to get used to not having like certain features that you get if you pay for it.
right, and you're gonna have less reach. But I would argue that if you are trying to be a creator and not just a consumer, then maybe paying for the premium makes sense. Like if YouTube was like, if YouTube told me, here's YouTube Premium, you're gonna get no ads and you're gonna get more reach. Of course, we're paying for it. Like it's not even a question.
Yeah, but even like most people, like they're not influencers. They don't care about reach. And the way that Twitter's always worked, it still works like this to this day, is it's not about how much engagement your posts get. It's about how much you engage with other people's posts. Like
right.
followings are built in the comments section. It's like when you find someone whose takes you enjoy on Twitter, if you actually interact with them and you post on their tweets and you interact with other people who post on their tweets, that's how you build a following.
Right.
So it just comes down to people fundamentally misunderstanding how social media works.
This is what Mark Hamill is doing now because he's so butthurt about the about losing the ability to see what people like. He is now responding with like as a reply to every comment he likes.
But look at the people that he's responding to, like Joe Biden, Brian Stelter, like all these like far left lunatics. I can understand Joe Biden because Mark Hamill's technically his press secretary now. But,
right.
Yeah, but you have people like James Gunn, like he left and went to Threads, right? Even though like nobody sees his posts over there, I think he might actually like that. But Twitter is still the town square. It's where people go to discuss issues that are taboo or hard to talk about or controversial, and it's also the place where you get the most immediate news. And liking stuff it's just an engagement signal. It's just something for the people who use the platform, but it's not necessarily why people are there to begin with.
Right. I agree. From Michael Nemo for $5. Can you imagine how different life would be today if 50 to 300 or more years ago, people in power knew what people liked? That's a good point.
Well, I would argue that they did. They just didn't care.
Right. Imagine like Caesar walking up to, hey, Brutus, why did you like this very specific traitorous thing? What's this about, man?
Well, I mean, the King of England knew that the territories didn't like to be taxed, but he did it anyway.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Dork Knight for $2. Thank you, Danny. Should Elon buy Star Wars to save the franchise? I think Elon should stay as far as he can from Star Wars, and not because of I care about Star Wars. It's more. I think I care more about Elon now than I care about Star Wars. So,
I mean, like Elon can just colonize Mars and make his own Star Wars.
Yeah, like maybe you okay. So buying Twitter wasn't just I'm mad that Twitter isn't allowing free speech. I think I think he understood how important Twitter was in the culture war. And so he spent an insane amount of money, damaged his reputation with these crazy people permanently. You know, he went from being someone where in Star Trek, I think they had named like high schools after him, to being someone joked about in the same exact series 2 seasons later. I think for him, he was like, look, this is important. Like this culture war, this political divide, what's happening in the world. Twitter is like the forefront of this. This is very important that it's a free place to have conversation. And I think that he had to have realized that buying Twitter was going to be a net negative for him overall. It wasn't going to be some positive thing.
He had plans for X, the Everything app, for a long time.
That's true.
And instead of just developing it and trying to build it up from scratch, he just made the executive decision that it was easier to buy something that was already existing and popular and then port it over to his vision, as opposed to trying to build up from the ground up. But if you look at like when all this stuff happens, it was directly correlated with all the censorship that was happening during like the COVID era.
Right.
And I believe Elon saw that and he didn't like it because, you know, censorship is a breeding ground for corruption and evil to thrive. And, you know, like he grew up in South Africa where they had apartheid and, you know, it was a very closed system. And he saw the dangers that happen when you're not allowed to speak freely. And so I think like it was a twofold thing. Number one, it was a smart business decision on his part because he basically spent, what was it, 44
billion.
44 billion for a existing user base, essentially. So like if you take however many people use Twitter on a daily basis and divide that by, you know, what he spent, he probably got it for like quite a discount. But in addition to that, like he realizes like how important it is to, you know, be able to call out unfettered, you know, evil and corruption and stuff when they see it. And I think that one of the reasons Biden is on the ropes as bad as he is now is because the Twitter files came out and everyone got exposed to the amount of corruption that, you know, the Democrats and the Biden administration, stuff like that, were taking part in, especially when it came to censoring stuff like the Hunter Biden laptop. And like we saw like the communications between the FBI and Facebook and how they were bullied. Facebook was bullied into like suppressing that stuff. Right. Same thing with Twitter, all this stuff. And you know, what Elon's doing, like he sees the bigger picture. He sees the importance of a place where people can express themselves without fear of being locked up or pushed back or anything like that. And he's taken the fight, like, you know, we see what he's doing with Gina Carano, right? Where like, you know, he's paying actively like taking people to court to protect people's right to say stuff. So I think that, you know, overall, like Elon is a hero.
Yeah, no, I think so too. In fact, two things. The reason why free speech is so important is because bad ideas are, you know, they die in the sunlight. You know, you can put all of this in the open and allow the sunlight, you know, to cleanse, to bleach the bad, and allow people to make decisions for themselves. It's important that we don't hide corruption. We don't hide, you know, bad ideas. We need to expose them and show them to the world so that at the very least people can make a decision, right or wrong. That's number one. Number two, this is what I think about the whole Twitter thing, is without Twitter right now, where would you go where you felt you were getting real information from real people and not something that was throttled or curated for you to see? Like, where could you go? Nowhere. Mm-hmm. Instagram is controlled. It's throttled. The you know, it's narrated for you. Yeah, you know, ideas they don't agree with are hidden and suppressed. Facebook, same thing. You know, like name the social media site you can go to, and that's not some private forum somewhere or 4chan. None.
Yeah, and I mean, instead of Elon buying Star Wars, I'd rather he buy YouTube and start applying the philosophy he has with Twitter over there.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
I love that. All right. So one more topic before we go to the members section. Let's talk about let's talk about this warp drive. Now, this information came out a while ago. This is in May, but I found it recently and I thought it was pretty awesome. So most people here are Trek fans, right? So in Star Trek, there is what makes Star Trek, what actually boots the whole universe is the discovery of the warp engine, right? So Cochrane, he creates the first warp capable ship out of a missile of some sort, and the Flight of the Phoenix is born. That's when Vulcans come down and they introduce themselves to us, and the story starts there. So warp drives have always been something that was theoretically possible, but there was so much surrounding it that was theoretically impossible, such as, well, in order to have a warp drive, you would need to have dark matter and things that we couldn't even prove yet, right? But this article from space.com, this is actually pretty cool. Warp drives may actually be possible someday, new study suggests. By demonstrating a first-of-its-kind model, we've shown that warp drives may not be relegated to science fiction. The new study provides some theoretical underpinning to warp drives, suggesting that the super-fast propulsion tech may not forever elude humanity. I'm going to skip down here. In 1994, Mexican physicist Miguel, I'm going to murder this guy's last name, Alcubierre, I think, published a groundbreaking paper that laid out how a real-life warp drive could work. This exciting development came with a major caveat, however. The proposed Alcubierre drive required negative energy, whatever that is, an exotic substance that may or may not exist, and perhaps the harnessing of dark energy, a mysterious force that seems to be causing the universe's accelerated expansion. Alcubierre published this idea in Classical Quantum, blah, blah, blah. The new study. This study changes the conversation about warp drives. Lead author Jared Fuchs of the University of Alabama, Huntsville, with the research think tank Applied Physics, said in a statement, by demonstrating a first-of-its-kind model, we've shown that warp drives might not be relegated to science fiction. The team's model uses a sophisticated blend of traditional and novel gravitational techniques to create a warp bubble that can transport objects at high speeds within the bounds of known physics. So the way a warp drive works in Star Trek is it creates this bubble, and then it pushes the spaceship along, and so it sort of ignores the problem with FTL. Like the closer you get to the speed of light, the more energy you need. That F E equals mc squared. It ignores that by, instead of actually moving at high speeds, it's creating a bubble, then sort of pushing it. It's riding that bubble like a wave. It's sort of hard to explain. There's YouTube videos out there, like look it up. But what this guy is saying, with a sophisticated blend of traditional and novel gravitational techniques, they think they can create a warp bubble that can transport objects without the need for dark matter, negative energy, or any of these weird, exotic, unexplainable things.
Yeah, so essentially what this breaks down to is the idea of a warp drive, which is basically they create a gravitational push behind a ship or engine so that when you're in the zero gravity of space, it basically is like you're falling, like there's a mechanism behind you that is pushing you forward and accelerating you. They said that they can't go faster than light with this applied theory, but like they can get to extremely high subliminal speeds. And it's basically just like you create like a gravity bubble behind you that like pushes you forward and creates momentum and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting stuff. It would basically, like if they were actually to develop something like this, they would basically open up the solar system to interstellar travel.
Right.
Like we wouldn't be able to visit like another galaxy, but like, hey, we could get to Pluto within like, a reasonable amount of time, that type of thing.
Yeah, it'd be like driving across country or something versus a 20-year journey.
Yeah, so like instead of like, what was it, 2 or 3 years to get to Mars, like it would take like, I don't know, a month, something like that.
Oh no, it would take more like, no, it would take days.
Yeah,
at
whatever the
at stealth light
calculation
speeds.
is.
Right.
It depends on like how fast of a sublight you can go. Like if you're going 90% the speed of light, or close to the speed of light, that's different than if you're going like 60% or like whatever. But one of the other interesting things is, I think they called it like an in-wave drive or something like that, which had something very similar, like a very similar concept to this. But one of the things was basically they have like this engine, and in the vacuum of space they accelerate like an atom or some type of molecule that just goes back and forth, and basically the motion of this molecule can propel something in the vacuum of space. So like it requires very little power, and it can get you up to like really high speeds. It's almost like the impulse drives that Star Trek uses.
Right.
So like there's a lot of like really interesting stuff going on, but of course like this is all still in the theoretical phase. Like they're not even close to building like a practical model for it.
Yeah, and everything starts out theoretical. And this is a good transition because I did want to touch on this Neuralink update. So Neuralink, I had no real interest in until
another Elon Musk,
right? And Neuralink is basically, this is what it is. It's a implant in your head that is able to turn the information, the pulses in your brain, into data for like a mouse cursor, or to control a light switch, or to control a wheel, a car, whatever, right? And it's something that it's so science fiction to me that you have this person who is in, he's a quadriplegic. He can only control his head and his mouth. He has been operating this chair with nothing but his mouth, right? And he is the first, and this was theoretical at some point. And then it went into testing, and they tested on pigs, and they tested on monkeys. And now he is the first human test subject. And you would think that it would be devastating, but actually, he is now able to play video games like Civilization. He's able to control mouse cursors at the same, almost the same speed that we can control a mouse cursor. In fact, he's actually getting faster as every test goes on. He gets, look at this. He's controlling that better than most of my older family members do. But as every test that goes, he actually gets faster and faster with how fast he can control just a mouse cursor. Consider not having access to your hands. This kind of technology just for controlling a computer. Like, I don't even need to control a car. If I was completely paralyzed and I had I was this poor bastard. At the very least, give me a computer to use. This guy didn't really have that capability until this Neuralink. He can use his mouth, but it was slow, right? And now look at this. This is him controlling a mouse cursor, and every test is getting faster and faster. In fact, they're theorizing, and he's on the computer now 69 hours a week, which is exactly what someone that age would do the second they get the ability to use a computer. What I find fascinating is that they theorize that eventually he'll get so good at this that he'll be able to beat what the normal record for a BCI cursor test is, like, controlling a cursor. He'll be able to go faster than humans. This guy who's paralyzed will be able to control a computer at a faster rate than what you can do with your hands soon. And this technology that again, Elon Musk has been made fun of. They've called it science fiction. They've gone hard on how bad of an idea this is. They've tried to say that he killed hundreds of monkeys, all this stuff. But there is a guy who has completely paralyzed, and I'm not trying to be just a massive Elon Musk simp here, but this is actually amazing. This guy's completely paralyzed, has only have access to his mouth, and he is now able to live objectively a better life because of this test. He's the first test subject because of the Neuralink, and it's only going to get better. This is the first draft. This is the first one. So they have plans to do more and more tests. They're going to be adding more people into it. So like next year, I think it's like another 6 people. The year after that, it's going to be a dozen people. And within the next 10 years, it's going to be up to like 72 people that will be testing and modifying every next generation of this technology. And look at here, I love this. This made me smile because it's him beating his friends in Mario Kart. So imagine you're playing Mario Kart and you're paraplegic, right? And you're beating your buddy with full control of his hands. Let's imagine the bragging rights. You're so bad, I beat you with no hands. I don't know. I just got a kick out of this, man, because like this is actual technology that is gonna change the life of people that can't use their hands or have
it has larger implications than
right.
that. Like
yeah,
one of the interesting things about the video that you were just showing is that they actually show how the Neuralink is like implanted into the brain, and it's like multiple like microscopic threads that are like smaller than the width of a human hair that are basically kind of woven into the prefrontal cortex. And what this type of thing can allow for is like it can help give blind people the ability to see. Eventually they're going to be able to like use this technology to give paraplegics the ability for their nerves to connect again, so that they could actually walk and control the rest of their body.
Yeah, build new pathways into other parts of the brain so they can learn how to walk again, right?
Exactly. Or even possibly like unlock parts of the brain that are dormant in most humans, like really big science fiction stuff. But, like the idea here that you could basically have this implant put into your brain and eventually like control your TV with your mind and like take calls without having to have a phone, like it's just like a Bluetooth connection to like, your phone, and you can just be like answer. Oh yeah. Hey Brian, how's it going? Or right. Even like you don't have to use your mouth. You can just think your response and like it'll.
You know what I love about this is that it's wireless, right? So like that means that at some point in the future there'll be people making apps for your Neuralink.
Yeah, and it's upgradable too. Like they're designing it so that as technology advances, you're not stuck with like a older version of this thing. Like you can actually like upgrade as the technology gets better, and it's pretty exciting. But I mean, like there's also like there's a little bit scary prospects as well. But I think overall this is another kind of win for humanity, because it's one of those things where technology can basically fix what's broken in humans. And right. I'm all for it. Like if I could have like an implant that would prevent me from being diabetic, I'd do it right now.
Yeah. What about an implant that helps you with like portion controls or whatever? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. The only thing I'd worry about. The only thing I'd worry about is like, does it like would someone be able to hack it and then control you? Like that. That's the
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure that as Neuralink becomes more and more, invested into pop culture, there'll be like movies and TV shows.
But how cool would it be? Like let's say you have a Neuralink, and then like you bring your dog in, you get your dog a Neuralink, and you're actually able to communicate with your dog and understand what your dog is thinking and feeling. Like maybe not explicitly, but like because you both have like a Neuralink, you're able to actually like communicate with your pet in a way that never, like you'd be a true beastmaster, right?
Yeah. Or connect to your own personal AI.
Oh yeah.
Like that horrible Jennifer Lopez movie that came out recently, where they used a Neuralink basically so that they can better connect to an AI.
Well, working with. What if it's a Matrix situation where like if you want to learn Kung Fu, you just ask your Neuralink, hey, can you download Kung Fu into my brain? And then like, yeah, exactly.
Kung Fu.
Or it's
I
like
I need to go to pilot this Apache helicopter. Give me the information now.
Yeah, exactly. Like the possibilities for this are pretty scary, but also awesome. So
very cool. Michael Nemo says, although that guy got in the chair because he was driving a Tesla. JK.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, Rec Dot says when they have right control, it's a problem. Yeah, I guess you're right. When they have right control. Okay, well, we're gonna go to the members section, my friends. What is the members section? I'll tell you what it is. It's a place where we can just let our hair down or lack of hair, enjoy ourselves, take our pants off. We talk to you guys. We look at memes. We laugh at stuff that maybe would be inappropriate on the public facing side of this stream. And we hope you can join us. It's really simple. Hit the little join button at the bottom left of the screen and come on in. This is going to start right now. You want to talk while I set this up and let us know what your next thing is, Matt?
I don't really have a next thing. We got our Salty Saturday show coming up, where we're going to talk more about Acolyte episode 3, amongst other things. But next Friday, in fact, I'm going to be on Pop Culture Crisis over at the Timcast headquarters.
Oh,
so
very
I'm flying
cool.
out. Yeah, I'm going to fly out there and hang out with Brett and Mary and talk about all types of pop culture nonsense.
Oh, that's why you wanted me to host the show the day afterwards.
Yep. Because I'm probably not going to be back in town.
Got it.
It should be a good time. And right now, we at the Salty Nerd are in the middle of coming up with a new content shift. We've been trying something new for the first part of this year, and we just didn't think it was working. And we wanted to get back to stuff that we enjoyed more, we thought was more fun. And so we're going to be making some announcements pretty soon about how our new content is going to be working.
Cool.
So yeah, should be fun for everyone involved, because we're going to kind of get back to our roots about movie reviews and stuff like that, instead of trying to be current and trendy and staying up to date on all the crazy stuff out there.
Current and trendy is often boring, unless it's very it's only a couple times out of the year I actually have a good time with it. Whenever someone's like, well, we got to talk about this because that's what's everyone talking about, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, we're going to be getting away from a lot of the pop culture war type stuff, where we're just going to talk about movies and TV shows and make fun of it.
Yeah, that's the place to go. Okay, guys, well, come on to the member section. It's always warm, and we hope you can join us. If not, that's cool. We'll see you on, Saturday at 10 a.m. on Matt's channel. So if you can't join us in the member section, we'll see you then. Later.